Hello and welcome to Tea Time. I'm Chaiti Narula and we're at Unitech Golf Course in Noida. Now, with rising aspirational levels in this country, consumers are becoming increasingly experimental with their beer. This has also given rise to changing paradigm in terms of consumer preferences in the alcohol sector as well. Discussing this in much more detail and the trends in alcohol consumption in this country and the way they're changing is Pradeep Gidwani, the former managing director of Carlsberg and the founder of the Pint Room.
On the show this week, we have Pradeep Gidwani, founder, The Pint Room.
The range is actually evolving quite nicely, and it's quite amazing to see Indian consumers try them. The choice wasn't there. Today there's a choice, and that's what's making the difference.
In news, Adam Scott shot a 4 under 67 to win the storm-delayed Australian PGA by 4 strokes. And Mohammad Siddiqur clinched the 50th Hero Indian Open.
Mr. Pradeep Gidwani, welcome to Tea Time.
Nice to meet you, Chaiti. How are you?
Very well. So now what prompted you to embark upon this entrepreneurial journey after being the former managing director of Carlsberg?
Well, I think I've sort of pretty much been an entrepreneur in my corporate world. I've sort of been part of various startups, very lucky to be in part of startups. 5 startups in India, part of the Diageo startup, part of Moët Hennessy, Foster's, Red Bull and Carlsberg. And it was only time that I went out and did something on my own, yeah.
I never thought I'd say this to somebody, but alcohol seems to be in your blood.
I think absolutely. I mean, I sort of enjoy the space. I mean, this is a fun category. It's a fun business. It's about meeting people, making friends, catching up, seeing what's happened. I think this is the only category in which one actually interacts with your consumers. I think in any other category you see them from a distance or you see them through market research.
Right.
But here you're actually seeing them. You're seeing them in a bar. You're seeing them in a social scene. You're seeing them in somebody's house. I think that's the best experience that one can get, actually talking, interacting with consumers.
In a nutshell, how would you describe the Pint Room? What does Pint Room mean to you? What is the concept?
We're trying to be, what the coffee shops are. So we're trying to be like a coffee shop of beers, and that's pretty much our vision here. So we're not a trendy bar, we're not cool, we're not hip, we're not happening. We're just a place where, somebody can catch up. I want to have a conversation with you, I want to meet up with my dad, I want to have a conversation with my business colleagues, and, just come in your, very relaxed clothes and, come and have a few beers, have a conversation. There's no loud music. So simplistically, coffee shop of beers, yeah.
In a country where alcohol is supposed to be taboo, what are the kind of hiccups you are facing with the Pint Room at present?
It's very difficult to look at India as one India, right? I mean, if I was to look at Western Europe, you'd largely say there's a homogeneous sect of people, but India is many different Indias here.
Yeah.
And you've really got to say which India you're talking to here.
Yeah.
So there's one India which is pretty much integrated into the Western world. Your social values are exactly the same. You've traveled around the world, and having a beer is a social need. It's about meeting up. It's about enjoyment. It's about relaxation. Yeah. And then there's another India for which alcohol fulfills a very different need, and that's about kick at a price. Yeah. And that's about escapism. That's about forgetting about your worries for the day. But we're not operating in that space here. So we're operating in the space which is pretty much the way the world operates, and that's pretty much the space we're in there.
Well, there are a few upsides to beer being positioned as a refreshment drink as well, but we'll discuss about that after I finish teeing off.
That's a nice shot.
Thank you so much. Now in the West, the beer is being positioned as a refreshment drink. Of course, not in India ever, but with rising aspirational levels, Indians becoming more global citizens, you are seeing that kind of shift arise in India as well in terms of perception and how they are taking to alcohol in general, not just beer?
as I said earlier on, I said India is various different Indias here. So if I look at middle class India, if you look at what's happening in urban centers, and I see what's happening even in tier 2 cities, at the high end, I said people have traveled, people today have access to the internet. You're seeing what's happening around the world. Social values have changed. It's no longer about hiding and drinking, but it's about just having a beer, and there's no harm in just having a glass of beer, and that may be with my father, it might be with a family, or with a few
Just
friends.
like the way you have consumed coffee.
Absolutely, and I think that's a key change that we've sort of seen over the last couple of years. I mean, 20 years ago, how many people had a bar at their home? Today, a large number of people have bars at home.
These are the upsides that you are talking about changing perceptions, about Indians becoming more open-minded towards alcohol consumption, becoming global citizens. The whole perception changes, but there's a downside of it as well. How are you protecting that by promoting responsible drinking at Pint Room?
I think the first step that we've really done is trying to create an atmosphere which is open.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's the first step. When people come into an atmosphere which is brightly lit, where there's no loud music, your mood turns out to be completely different.
Yes.
Versus a place which is dark, dimly lit, headbanging music that turns you into a different person. The second thing we're very conscious about, serving beers to people of legal drinking age. And that may vary from state to state depending on the rules in that space. So we're very clear about that. So people only of legal drinking age can drink. And the third thing is the fact that it's just beer, right? I mean, that automatically makes people self-conscious, not coming out and drinking 42% alcohol, but they're drinking something which is probably 5% alcohol. So that's the third thing that happens at the Pint Room. And lastly, if at all, unfortunately, we haven't had any such issues. If somebody sort of tries to go over the boundary, we're extremely clear. We just stop selling to him.
Got it. What kind of market potential do you see for something like a Pint Room in this country?
We're just sort of touching the surface here. I mean, if you look back about 15 odd years ago when the coffee shops came into India, who said that one could drink coffee in India, right? They said, India is a tea-drinking nation, and, where's the scope for coffee? And that was really what people's perceptions was about 15 odd years ago. And today you look at the number of coffee shops around the country, that's pretty much what can happen with beer. If you look at the Western world, you've got, sort of neighborhood place in almost every neighborhood where people go and meet up. It's just sort of, walk across from your home and catch up with the regular. So I think the potential is just about being touched. It's a completely new category. It's a completely new concept. So early days.
Add to that the fact that the import duties on imported beer is going up, which might just augur well for players and microbreweries like you.
We're not really a microbrewery. In fact, we actually sell a large amount of imported beer, and therefore high import duties do not augur well for us. I think what's working for us is the fact that we have a plethora of beers. We have a wide choice of beers. Consumers are exposed to different styles of beers, whether it's ale from Belgium or nice Bavarian beers or beers from the Czech Republic. We've got an interesting range of beers, which is much more than what a typical classic microbrewery does. But more than anything else is said, what's working for it is the concept. It's just a meeting space, a simple meeting space where people can catch up, over some nice brews.
From coffees to conversation to beer and a lot of conversation, we will stay in conversation again with the founder of the Pint Room, Mr. Pradeep Gidwani. Take a quick break. We will see you on the other side. Well, thank you for staying with us on Tea Time. We're still in conversation with the founder of Pint Room, Mr. Pradeep Gidwani. Now, Pradeep, where do you stand in a environment or an ecology where UB continues to still dominate by having over 57% of the market share in beer?
The market is evolving, right? For any category which is new to India, the market will evolve here. So we've seen that in various different categories. You look back at soaps, you look back at cosmetics, and they're very large players. And that's pretty much what's going to happen in beer. So UB will continue to be a dominant player. They cater to a certain segment of the market. And then you'd have niche premium brands coming in at the high end. So what's going to happen is that there's going to be a nice segment which will evolve at the high end of the market. And that's pretty much a space where we're sort of playing in.
So does premium handcrafted beer have great potential as well? We've seen that the wheat beer, Weiss beer, you go to any Indian beer festival and you see suddenly an onslaught of premium handcrafted beer on the rise. Indians are definitely, very obviously taking well to it. But what is the kind of overall potential that you see for a segment like that?
I think, again, as mentioned earlier, we're just sort of scratching the surface. It's very early days here.
Yeah.
We didn't have these concepts in India.
Yeah.
Today, you've got microbreweries, you've got places like the Pint who sort of creating this sort of revolution, if you'd like to say, in beer, where people can come in and try a different variety of beers. Beer is not just the standard classic golden lager that one has here. We have varieties of those, but we've got, dark ales, we've got, nice dark stout beers, we've got organic ales, we've got Belgian ales, we've got Trappist beers. So the range is actually evolving quite nicely, and it's quite amazing to see Indian consumers try them. The choice wasn't there. Today there's a choice, and that's what's making the difference.
Now, alcohol being such a state subject, what are the kind of hiccups that you face at the Pint Room as well, which is essentially a beer cafe?
I think essentially two key challenges. One is beer is very highly taxed here.
Yeah.
As a general category. Imported beers have again a high range of import duties here. That makes beer frightfully expensive.
Absolutely.
So that's the first major challenge. The second one is a plethora of licenses that are needed.
Yeah.
And they tend to vary from state to state. So opening a cafe, as I said, we're pretty much trying to open a coffee shop, should be different from opening a nightclub there.
True.
But we've pretty much got to go through exactly the same process there.
Yeah.
And so the large number of licenses and fairly time consuming. So pretty much those are the two key challenges for us.
Pradeep, in the past when the economy really slowed down, it did not really impact the spirits industry too much. But now with the slowing economy and sustained slowing economy, along with price hikes and the rupee declining, has the spirits industry been hit hard at present as we speak?
I mean, I think if you look around the world's sort of been through this. Right? I mean, India is for the first time witnessing this sort of, slowdown that we're sort of saying. But if you look around the world's sort of been through these ups and downs. These economic cycles will sort of come and go. But I mean, businesses will again go through its ups and downs, and that's pretty much part of economy. And so you'll see categories evolve, you'll see categories change, and that's pretty much what will happen because of the economy. But you won't have a situation where you say you're going to have alcohol consumption coming down or slowing down. That is unlikely, particularly in a country like ours, where if you look at beer consumption, it's just 2 liters per capita. It's just so small. I mean, the base is so small. So yeah, I mean, the ups and downs will happen.
Sure. Now, time for continuing our game. That's lovely, Pradeep. On that note, it's time now for us to take a quick break on Tea Time. Stay with us. We will remain in conversation with the founder of Pint Room and discuss the beer industry in much detail on the other side as well. Thank you for staying with us on Tea Time. Now we're discussing the beer industry. The duties are raised and the companies are not being able to pass on the price increases regularly on to customers. It's more on the manufacturing side, but how are retailers like you taking to it?
I think it's a complex operating environment. I think everything is controlled, and it's unfortunate there have been price increases in terms of cost of goods and manufacturing, electricity costs, etc. for the manufacturers, and they in turn can't pass it on. So it is definitely having an impact on manufacturers.
Right.
For bars and restaurants, it's a slightly different situation, where we can pretty much increase the prices, keeping in mind what's really happening in the operating environment.
Now, Pradeep, how do you plan to really establish yourself as a brand, the Pint Room, in a bag full of players with pubs, you've got retailers, you've got microbreweries, you've got an onslaught of imported beer, you've got beer festivals on the rise, just so many varieties out there for the consumer to even remember what was the last thing he had. How do you differentiate?
I think, seeing is believing. I think, and I'd like to invite you to come and see the Pint Room sometime. But I think the first thing is really having a very clear vision on what you want to be. And I think we're very clear about our vision. Our vision is very clear. We would like to be a coffee shop of beers. And coming out from there, the positioning is very different from whatever else is there in the market, from what other bars are doing, what other clubs are doing, the kind of activities and promotions they're doing. We're extremely different. That comes straight from the vision. We've now opened 8 outlets across the country, and in each of these 8 we're seeing that there is a need, there is a consumer who has this latent need which has been there, which is about meeting up. And meeting up, like you'd meet up for a cup of coffee, where I can talk to somebody, music's not blaring at me, nobody's sort of disturbing me. I'm just sitting there quietly, comfortably, and enjoying a fine brew with a friend. And that's pretty much what we're staying very, very focused on, and all activities around that.
What are your plans now? What are the future plans?
I think just taking the Pint from all across here. If Starbucks could do it, I think hopefully we should be able to.
Expansion of footprint
yes,
is
so expanding our
something that
footprint.
you're looking at.
Yeah, we've got 8 outlets. This is fairly rapid expansion, particularly in the last 6 months. We tested the concept for some time. For about a year and a half, we were with just 1 outlet, and then the last 6 months has been fairly rapid expansion. We've got 6 more outlets opened up to a total up of 8. 2 more opening up in the next couple of months. So that's 10. That's fairly rapid expansion. We now operate in 6 different cities of India. So we have presence in up north, near Chandigarh, a town called Panchkula. We're in Delhi Gurgaon region. We're in Mumbai. We're in Pune. We're in Bangalore. Obviously, I think expansion is one critical thing for us. And second, as you said earlier on, it's really about getting the brand perfectly focused, building a bit more awareness for it, creating a bit more brand awareness for the brand.
What's happening with the women now? Are women taking on to something like a pint room? Are women liking the taste of beer, taking on to alcohol, or is it male-dominated area that we're talking about?
Extremely interesting question. I think when I opened the first Pint room, people asked me the same question and said, you're sort of opening up in Delhi. What about women consumers? What about cold winters, etc., etc.?
Plus, you're talking about India.
And we're talking about India, but I think those are complete myths. Yeah. I think if you again look at one part of India, and I said this is not applicable across the country, but if you look at the India that we're sort of trying to address, I think we have about 50% of our consumers are women. Yeah. We see women, coming in, a group of women enjoying a nice beer, and again, people say, people won't like the bitter taste of beer. Completely untrue. Yeah. Completely untrue. People are enjoying fine brews. They're enjoying a nice stout. They're enjoying a sort of pedigree ale, which is reasonably bitter. That's quite amazing to see that. Yeah. I'm seeing women come in groups. I've seen women come in as a single woman reading a book at the Pint room. I've seen them coming in cold winter months. What more?
So gone are the days.
Yeah,
gone are the days when it was a taboo to go to a beer cafe.
Particularly
like that.
in this segment. Yeah.
On that note, we're going to finish our game and talk a little more about your golfing escapade as well, which you've just recently, I believe, taken on to.
Thank you. That's a good one.
Thank you. So you go back a long way with the sport, with golf championships and sponsorships of all these tournaments. Take us through them.
I think the first association started when I was with Johnny Walker. And Johnny Walker was very extensively involved with the game of sport. And so the Johnny Walker Classic, we sort of were sponsors for the sport. And we took the sport all across, and we took the tournament all across, Delhi, Calcutta, Bangalore, Hyderabad, up to Kathmandu and down to Sri Lanka. So a lot of association at the time of Johnny Walker did a couple of the classics in India. Then again with Moy Hennessy, involved in the game. Yeah, so flirted with the sport quite extensively. And then I lived in Dubai where I sort of worked with Red Bull, and then I sort of got a bit serious about the game and went on the course and had a British coach teaching me, and sort of did that for a couple of weeks. And then, it was back to Carlsberg, and everything just sort of, completely went off.
Carlsberg didn't sponsor any golf tournament?
Carlsberg is involved.
Did,
Carlsberg's involved again in sponsorship. But while I was there, it was still pretty much new, and it was about setting up business in India, where in Malaysia and other parts of the world they do sponsor golf tournaments. So I just got busy in setting up the business, and completely forgot about golf. And now sort of coming back to the
Pint
game again.
room will be interested in doing any kind of hospitality tie-ups for golf tournaments.
Absolutely, we've sort of looked to get into different groups. So we're doing activities with cyclists. We've done some stuff with the polo groups, and we'd be very keen to do activities with golf. I think it's a natural fit. After a game, come in and have a nice beer, have a variety of beers, and then meet up with your friends.
I mean,
So-
absolutely. Networking on the green, networking off the green, networking in Pint Room as well. So good to know that you've had quite a flirtatious relationship with this sport, but hope that relationship really turns into marriage of sorts soon. Thank you so much for joining me on Tea Time. That was Pradeep Gidwani of the Pint Room and me, Chaiti Narula. Beer majors, of course, continue to brew it strong. Stay with us on ET Now. I will see you next week again.